How on earth am I supposed to follow that? Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Mike, for the pre-intro. Thank you, all of you, for such a warm welcome to this very beautiful country. I've not been here 7 times. I've only been here once. This is my very first time, and I've really loved every minute of it. I'm very excited to spend the next few minutes with all of you, and it is my hope that you leave here with some tangible tips that will help you make your brands better. And also, we still have a few hours left in the day. I would love to get the chance to meet you, to say hello, even if only for a few seconds. So I'm Phil. I'm a brand strategist based between London and LA, and usually I'm somewhere in between there. I tend to bop around. So just this month, I guess I will visit 7 or 8 countries. I end in Brazil. I started in Colombia. But that doesn't matter. The most important thing is that I'm here with you right now in Poland. My job as a brand strategist is this. I help people position, build, and promote themselves. And while I specialize in personal branding, I work just as much with companies, often on this very specific challenge of humanizing a brand. Now, I've noticed in the last, 2 days that this theme has popped up a few times, right? How do we connect? How do we engage? We, as human beings, connect with other humans. So I'm here to kind of challenge and plant a few seeds from my years of working with, I showed you a few brands in the opening, but over 8 years, almost 250 clients in 25 countries. This idea of how do we create a memorable first impression. So I've distilled my years of working one-on-one with clients in a lot of different places and a lot of different industries into 9 rules, actionable rules. And I will give you all of those rules today. Sound good? We ready to go? I'm just so impressed. You guys have sat here uninterrupted for a few hours. So thank you, Ian. I just love. Can you just travel around with me and open with a song? So good. So I will give you my handle. Feel free to take pictures. Please do, because I don't have that many pictures of me on stage, so help me out. Use the hashtag. Let's, again, start the conversation, the connection, the relationship today. And please, I would love to be a resource to you moving forward. I have 9 rules. Let's start with rule number 1. The first one, ironic, because you know this session is branding is your secret weapon, and I will give you 9 rules. The first rule is that it's not about you. In this job, I have discovered this, right? People come to me with a great idea, and I often joke, my bio on social media is this: if your baby's ugly, it's my job to tell you. Not actually your child, because by the way, people will send me pictures, tweets of their children. No, you missed the point. Your baby is your business idea, and a lot of times we're assessing, okay, is this something that's going to work? How do we take what you're really excited about, something you're passionate about, something you might do for fun, how do we take this and pair it with a really important part of this equation? Something you do for yourself that you get enjoyment out of. This is what I call a hobby, but it's not necessarily a brand or a business. And I use the terms brand and business interchangeably. So the necessary element of this equation, something you love, paired with something others need, and ideally are willing to pay for. Now, if you can understand each variable of that equation, even with some very basic market research. I loved the session earlier talking about surveys, and even though I didn't really know what was being said, I followed along with the graphics. But this idea of reaching out to your audience and asking questions to understand, how can I satisfy a need? Every good business does this. With each rule that I give you, I will give you a client example of someone that has actually come to me that I've helped. So no kind of abstract or celebrity examples. Every one of these people are people, ordinary people that came to me with a specific challenge. This is my client, Rachel, who's a nutritionist. And it was within the first 5 minutes of our conversation about working together that she said, Phil, My clients need a customized solution. Every single one of my clients is completely different. It's kind of like a fingerprint. No two are exactly the same. And that is really what drives me to do the work that I do. That single statement became the sole inspiration for the visual brand that we designed. It is often in conversation with a stranger, not someone you know super well, but a stranger, someone who doesn't know you as well, and you're describing who you are, why they should care. It is in those conversational moments where we need to hold on to those nuggets of gold, those conversational tidbits, like in this example with Rachel, can become very powerful as we look to position and build your brand. Great branding is really just about recreating the in-person experience. How do I take what makes you so great in real life and very simply recreate that online? And various experts define this in all different ways, but I really like to keep this simple. Branding gives you control over the first impression you give others. I think it's cute when people think that they don't have a brand, because in 2019, all of us, even if you're not that active on social media, we are all juggling two versions of ourselves. The in-person experience, which, by the way, I consider this a privilege to be here face-to-face with all of you. That's kind of rare nowadays. So we're juggling this version of us in person and the challenge, if you will, of recreating this online. So this first rule is to really set you up for success. It's not about you, it's about them, your customer, your client, your user. How can we understand the needs so that we can satisfy them? Got it? Good. Number one, it's not about you. Number two, brand for tomorrow. I said when I was titling this talk that branding is your secret weapon. People often make the mistake and think, well, branding, that's just about our visuals. That's just about looking pretty, isn't it? No, I challenge this. I actually believe that branding is the most powerful business tool that you have available to you. It is your secret weapon. Why? Because if you take a minute, it might take longer than a minute, if you take some time to be very crystal clear on your goals as a business, as a brand, then we can use branding as a tool to manifest those. Where is it that you want to be a year from now? Think about that for a second. By the way, I will give you the link at the end so you can get my rules. You don't have to worry too much about taking notes. But I really want you to think about this. Where do you want to be a year from now? Where do you want to be 5 years from now? How are we going to get there? Well, we need to start to visualize, set that goal, and start to work backwards. We need to get you there. If we can start to brand, not necessarily you today, but who you're going to be tomorrow, if we can start to brand that, we can get you there. You know, it's not right away, it's not overnight, but certainly if we can start to visualize and start to understand where we're going through smart copy, through visuals, through positioning, we can help actually manifest that goal. And I'll give you an example. This is a client of mine, Simon, who is a public speaker, very successful, travels to stages and speaks in front of thousands of people all over the world. So no problems there. But one of Simon's goals when he came to me and said, Phil, I really need a new website. He said, I really also want to spend more time at home. He's got kids. He sees them very rarely because he's often stuck on airplanes, going from gig to gig. So this was a goal that he said almost as an afterthought in our conversation. And with Simon, through the exercise of rebranding, getting all of the elements we need to make a really beautiful website, through this exercise, we actually had discussions about the organization of his business, the structure of his business. So much emphasis went on him showing up in person, just like this in front of an audience, and then going to the next one. But for Simon, we actually branded and made official this idea that he could, yes, deliver a powerful message on stage to, inspire, but also create a whole new vertical of his business, which was taking the information and the message from what he does online and recreating it online. Now Simon's business, by making this official and actually creating a separate vertical through online courses, workshops, all different ways that people can engage with his content online, now this has become a huge part of Simon's revenue. So brand for tomorrow. Have some clarity on where you're trying to go with this. Know who you are today, but know where you're going, because branding really is where you have control over getting there. Number 3, be real. This is a fun one. Every single one of you, whether you're a personal brand or you're here representing a company, people, companies, every single person, or every single entity, I should say, is made up of 2 elements. Are you ready? The first one, content, what you say. The second one, personality, how you say it. One, and only one of these, is your competitive advantage. Can you guess which one? I gave you a hint. Personality is your secret weapon. You can't sell a brand or build a brand or make a sale on content alone. That in itself won't make you stand out. The necessary pairing with what you say is how you say it, because it keeps people coming back to you. If it's content alone, we can find it anywhere online. And don't think for a second that you're completely original in what you're saying, because it's probably online in some way, shape, or form already. How you say it, just like going to a friend for advice. You probably already know the advice, but you want to hear it from them and how they're going to say it to you. Personality is the ingredient that a lot of times is missing or not fully utilized in what you're building to show for what you do. I'll give you an example. My client, Kate, who's an executive coach. Kate works one-on-one with executives, CEOs, people very, very high up in business to help improve efficiencies, to help maximize leadership, and all of these types of things that they do day to day. And Kate came to us, and I could tell within 5 minutes of conversation with her, so lovable, so warm, so optimistic. I really look forward to calls with her. She said, Phil, my clients are pretty corporate. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to be pretty buttoned up and corporate. Well, you don't come to Phil and say, brand me, and then say I have to be corporate. Because even if we have to appeal to that audience, we're still not going to be like everyone else. The whole point of branding is to stand out, to be memorable, to give you control over the first impression, so that ideally we remember you. You stay top of mind instead of someone else. So we talked, and I said, okay, what makes you you? You work from home, you've got pets, right? Great, put them in the photos. Let's have some fun. Let me see you in your element. And so when we got the photos back, photography plays a huge role, and I'll talk more about that in a second. When we got the photos back, I think what Kate thought would be like the ones we would throw out, the proofs that don't make it, those are most of the ones that I actually used in the build-out of her brand. Like this photo, for example, of her totally being vulnerable, laughing, looking off to the side. This is Kate, not a perfectly posed, photo that looks like it would end up on a real estate ad on a park bench. This is Kate. This moment just totally captured her. So I said, great, let's put it on the homepage of your website. And let's pair it with copy that tells people very efficiently who you are and why people should care. So we say, in first person, I'm an executive coach by title, and so much more than that. And while I'd love to take credit for those words, that's, again, something Kate said in the first half hour of our conversation. While my job as a brand strategist is to talk, and I love to talk, more importantly, my job is to listen. As I get to meet some of you today, I look forward to it. I'm listening for how you describe what you do, and why I should care. I love this example of Kate because 9 times out of 10, we are writing in first person if it's a personal brand. Sometimes if it's a company brand, we do it in first person as well. The reason why is that technology gets in the way of you and me. We have a beautiful connection in real life, face to face. But the minute we stick technology between you and me, it becomes a little more difficult. So online, we're often having to create a heightened version of us, of what makes you great. And I find that writing in first person helps eliminate or diminish that barrier that is technology, that sits in between you and me. Number 3, be real. Number 4, no headshots. You know what I mean by headshots. They look kind of like this. This is a client of mine that I've worked with on a number of projects over the years. Chandresh came to me and said, Phil, I was researching you online and I know how passionate you are about photography. I have good news. I just had my photos done and now we don't need to do them. And then I looked at this and thought, no. Poor Chandresh is my guinea pig for this example, but that's not going to cut it. What does this photo tell me about him? Not a whole lot. That's kind of a problem. We can all in this room agree that attention spans are at an all-time low. If I don't grab you in 3 seconds or less, I've lost you to a viral kitty video on YouTube. So it's our job as we're creating visual brands to not tell people who you are, because no one has the attention span to listen. Instead, we have to use every opportunity we have to show them who you are. So I said, Chandresh, the only good thing about this photo is your outfit. Let's keep the outfit, but I'm going to send you next week with a photographer into the woods. Chandresh, by the way, is a spiritual advisor. You wouldn't necessarily know it from this photo, but you'd know it from this one. Same outfit, but totally different context. And ideally, the second one shows you who he is, at least a bit of a tease, so you start to kind of dig and want to know more about what he does. I have a lot of fun with photography. Photography, for a lot of businesses, is an afterthought. I would actually argue that if you came to me and said, Phil, I have a limited budget when I'm building my brand, if I can't do everything, what's the most important thing that I invest in? My answer to you would be photography, not logos. And I love logos, but honestly, for now, put your brand name in a great font and build out your logo later. For now, you need photography that tells me who you are, shows people, a bit about your personality, what you're capable of doing to grab attention. And this remains a rule of mine because it is still very much underutilized in the branding space. So ideally, your photo gives me a sense of your personality. Who are you? What would I learn about you if we were together in real life? How can I start to experience that in a heightened way online? Number 4, no headshots. Number 5, let's continue. Subbrand. Now, this might be something you've heard of. It also might be a brand new concept that I'm excited to share with you today. A lot of people think that branding is really just about putting one single logo on everything that you have. In 2019 and beyond, you have to be savvier than that. Ideally, you don't have one single mock-up of your logo. You should have various compositions, horizontal, square, different versions for different uses. Let's say, for example, you've got signage, for a brick and mortar business. Let's say you've got something in behind you if you're doing Skype calls. You've got an email signature, invoices, all different kinds of collateral, web and print. Sub-branding is the exercise of taking inventory not only of who you are and how we communicate that through a logo, typography, color, visuals. Sub-branding is the exercise of taking a closer look at your brand and understanding what elements, systems, mechanisms make you unique. For example, the minute I walked up on stage, I told you I help people position, build, and promote their brands. That's an example of my process. That is a sub-branded entity of my business. It could be categories on your blog, the names of the different collections you have if you sell a product. It could be locations throughout the world of where you work from. think about how you can start to sub-brand your business. And I'll give you a fun example, because the example is sitting in the front seat. Hi, Isabella. Music Radio Creative, you know from Mike's wonderful presentation. They are not only very good friends of mine, and actually the reason I'm at this conference, so thank you, but also clients of mine. Mike and Isabella came to me and said, Phil, we know you can help us with our brand. And I said, great, what's your goal? The goal was to attract bigger customers. If you're going to try and attract bigger customers, you've got to look the part. So, as we were discussing and brainstorming and getting excited about updating some beautiful visuals to represent this brand that already has a solid reputation around the world for what they do, we went through the exercise of talking, okay, who is your customer? Well, they knew this, but we didn't yet really visualize or start to understand how we can more directly help this customer identify themselves. So on their website, through their positioning, any way in which you engage with this brand now, through the exercise of sub-branding, we identified and created a visual system to represent the audience. And now, when you land on this brand as a DJ radio creative or a podcaster, there's a very specific offering for each audience, depending on how you identify, right? And think about that from the consumer standpoint, how attractive that is that someone has taken the time to create something specifically for me. We have the ability to do that. Branding can help you actually communicate that. So number 5, sub-brand. Number 6, go where it's less crowded. We nowadays have the pressure, right? What feels like we need to be active on every single social media platform. How is it possible? Not all of us have, the fortune of having a whole social media team or production team follow us everywhere we go to create content constantly. A lot of times, it is on our to-do list or on our job description, along with a whole lot of other things. So my advice to you today, I should say over the years, it's been rather than being average on 10 platforms, be really good at 3. And I've since even changed that to say, be really good on 3, or better yet, be a rock star on 1. There's only so many hours in the day. You're not going to be fantastic on every single platform, right? Not to say you can't be, have a presence on those, but you can't be really good. So where you spend your time should be A, where your audience is, and also B, where there's room for you to be heard. By a show of hands, who is active on Instagram, posting to your Instagram feed? Put up your hands. Now, when I do this presentation in the US, it's a lot more hands. Okay, so still a lot of people active on Instagram. Now, if I said keep your hand up if you post at least 2 stories a week on Instagram. Okay, so some hands went down, but some are still up. Now, if I said keep your hand up if you go live on Instagram at least once a week. You see this, Ian? You see this? Not enough hands. So I often give people this example. If you walk into a room and that room is YouTube, it's a very full room and there's a lot of people talking. Chances are if you're successful on YouTube, it's because you started years ago. To make a brand or to launch a content strategy successfully on YouTube is not impossible, but it's difficult nowadays. But where we think that's where we need to be if we're embracing video, if I say to you, maybe consider Instagram Live instead of YouTube, maybe start to post videos on LinkedIn, as an example of what a lot of people are not doing yet, then there are less people in this room. There is a higher chance that you will stand out. My goal is that you walk into that room, there are less people active, and there's more of a chance that your voice is going to get heard. So I'll give you an example. This is a client of mine, Mona, who when I started with her, she was a full-time pharmacist. She is now a full-time Instagram influencer. Mona, while tempted, waited to actually launch her YouTube channel because she already had an active audience that she was growing on Instagram. Rather than trying to juggle all the social media platforms, she went all in on Instagram. Every Monday, she went live for 1 hour, a very simple show that she created herself called Mondays with Mona. Every single person in this room is capable of doing exactly the same. She's done it for about 1.5 years, possibly 2 years now. Every Monday, doesn't miss a Monday. People come to know it. They get excited about it. Human beings love routine. You all watch your favorite TV shows at the same time every week. And while many people are waiting, I lived in LA for the last 7 years up until October, and I've since moved to Europe. Many people are waiting for that opportunity, right, to have a TV show or to have this platform. Well, actually, if you're smart, you'll go ahead and create that platform for yourself. And that's exactly what she did. She now has proof of concept. She's now getting brand deals because she's taken the initiative to actually create something on her own to show for what she's doing. And now, after having hundreds of thousands of subscribers on Instagram, has built her platform on YouTube and is starting to cross-promote those channels. Go where it's less crowded. Number 7, be a big fish in a small pond. So, along this idea of feeling the pressure of having to be active on every single social media platform, we also feel the pressure, occasionally, that we need to appeal to everyone as a business. Well, when we try to appeal to everyone, we effectively appeal to no one. Now, it is more important than ever to rock a niche, to be specific. Geography matters less than ever before. And while sometimes we have these exciting moments of being face-to-face, many other times it's just about speaking specifically to an audience, and that audience can be niche. Don't be afraid of having a niche. Being afraid of having a niche is like being afraid of being so good at something that people call you for that expertise. That's nothing to be afraid of. Like my friends shown in this picture at DRC, which is an interior designer showroom in California. They have a lot of fun on their social media. They teach their audience how to decorate a little bit better, how to create an interior that's going to work for you. And what's funny is that actually most of us can't even shop at the store. The only way that you can actually shop and purchase products from them is if you're an interior designer. So talk about niche. They still have found a way to build their brand, engage with a following, attract the right type of audience by knowing exactly who their audience is. And when you satisfy one audience really well, you attract secondary and tertiary markets. So don't be everything to everyone. Effectively appeal to a very specific audience. And don't be afraid nowadays of that specificity. Number 8, embrace Evergreen, which has come up a few times over the last few days. Evergreen content is this idea that something you create and post will live longer and not be tied to a specific moment or political climate, if you will. Evergreen content lives for a lot longer because it's not tied to one specific time or event. With this pressure of feeling like we need to be active and everywhere on every single platform, I'm not saying you to only post Evergreen, but I'm saying for you to embrace it. Where can we sit down and create what we need to in one kind of session, one focused session, as opposed to having to carve out time every single day to be active online? If you can embrace Evergreen, it will give you more time to work on everything else you need to do within your business. So this is a client of mine, Janet McTavish. Janet is a travel designer. Janet, like many of us, while we love social media and we love being present and growing our platforms through content online, many of us have to put that aside for a minute and serve the clients that keep our businesses running and growing. Janet is a perfect example. She will have someone call her with a special ringtone, and has to all of a sudden very quickly design, she did recently, a Rolls-Royce tour through New Zealand, or plan a Ferrari tour in Italy, all kinds of crazy things that I could never afford. But her clients call her and they expect her service. They expect her attention right away. And so for Janet, she's got to put social media on hold a lot of times. But by embracing evergreen content, she can put it on hold, and it means her strategy doesn't crumble as a result. So I'm not saying don't jump in and be active and tell us your opinion, go live, send a tweet when something is important, right? I love that Mike gave an example of something that Google said 2 days ago. He gave that example because he's plugged in and he knows his brand and audience. You could likely do the same. You could tell me something. You could educate me on something in your industry because you know what's happening. So sprinkle that in as and when, but if you have evergreen content sprinkled throughout your strategy, scheduled, then it puts less pressure on you to have to do that. In this idea of knowing where your audience is, Janet knows that her audience is on Instagram and LinkedIn. Be a superstar on one platform. Know really where your audience is, and that's where you should spend your time, schedule your content, be organized, so that you're still present, even if you have to, service your clients in that moment. So rule number 8 is embrace evergreen. The final rule that I'm going to give you is systems. This idea of creating systems to help manage the crazy. I feel like it's not going to get less crazy anytime soon. This pressure that all of us as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as executives, whatever, head of marketing, operations, all these different roles that we have, the pressure for us to stay on top of all of this is not going to go away anytime soon. So I love at the end of my presentations to actually share the tools that I use on a daily basis to manage all of this, from generating my slides for this exact presentation to using, services that help me do what I need to do for clients. I'm going to give you 9 of my favorite tools today. The first one, Canva. I spend more time in Canva nowadays than I do in Photoshop, even though I'm a designer. Now when I'm building a website for a client, I not only hand them a finished website product, but I also hand them a Canva account where I've created all the graphics for them, allowing them to manage, maintain it, update it. You don't have to be a designer or even overly visually savvy to be able to jump into Canva and update some templates. This could be for blog thumbnails. It could be really for any visual element for your brand. Use this tool, and if you have their pro version, they should really pay me to say this. They don't, but they should. If you use the pro version of Canva, you can upload your own branded fonts and select your color library so that anyone who logs in there and creates graphics can keep it consistent. The next one is a tool called Preview. And I love this tool specifically for planning your Instagram feed ahead of time. There's nothing worse than having every single day or however often you post to figure out, okay, what am I going to post? What am I going to say? It's on plane, when I'm on the airplane without Wi-Fi, that I sit and plan my Instagram feed ahead of time. I've usually got it planned at least 8 weeks in advance, because by having that organized and ready, it means I can jump on stories, jump on live, jump on airplanes, travel here and there, or everything else that I'm supposed to do. Preview, and I've tried all of them. Preview is my favorite app to plan your Instagram feed. Now it's also important that all of your photos look good, not just on its own, but together as a visual feed. So this is my favorite one. It's called Preview. Another resource that I use almost every single day is called the Noun Project. The Noun Project. And this is a database of icons. So as we talk about sub-branding earlier, or you'll see in the presenters we've had, using icons to communicate services, any kind of system, this is a great tool where you can either, for free, use an icon and attribute the artist who created it, or they have a pretty inexpensive monthly subscription that allows you to use all of the icons without attribution. The next one is brain toss. I talk a lot about using your brain to generate ideas but not store them, okay? This app, Brain Toss, I've discovered is the quickest way to get an idea from your head into your inbox or somewhere that you're going to be able to action on it. I've built my business around the philosophy of getting things done, and this app was literally created with that philosophy in mind, if you're familiar with it. David Allen, through voice, through photo, through quick text, every time you have a good idea, please don't store it in your mind. Quickly acquire it and put it down somewhere so that you can take action on it. This is only a few dollars, and it's a really, really great way. For example, here's an example of how you could use this today. When you're meeting people at this conference and they're asking, so what do you do? Quickly take out your phone, and as you're answering that question to a stranger, record how you answer it. That could be your post or your social media bio, or it could go on your About page on your website tomorrow. Another tool that I use to store inspiration is called Dropmark. Similar to Evernote, there's a few others out there. Pinterest boards, some people create secret Pinterest boards, but this is my favorite tool to store websites, ideas, competitors, similar brands to you. Anything that I find online that I might want to reference later, I store in here, and I have categories, that often I'm asked about. Inspiration, photography, branding, outreach, sales, content strategy, all these different things that I do as a brand strategist. So I store those quickly in there so that if I ever need to reference them later, I've got them somewhere. The next one is called Answer the Public, and I love this tool for creating or generating content ideas. So all you need to do is go to this website, enter in a keyword, and in this example, I know it's small, but I entered the word branding, and it gave me literally hundreds of phrases that include the word branding or related to that people are looking for online. So anytime you are stumped for ideas for that next video title, for the next blog post, this is a great resource that considers using keywords, what people are looking for, to hopefully increase the likelihood that you are discovered. The next two go hand in hand, Rev and Temi, tools for transcription. Ian talked about Rev, it's done by humans. Temi is an alternative that is even cheaper. It's 10 cents per minute of audio, and it's done by a computer. The final resource is me. Tricky. So if you use this link, philpallen.co/notes, I will not send you a PDF of what I've talked about because you're only going to download it, look at it once, and never look at it again. Instead, yes, go ahead and take a picture. Instead, I will send you one rule per day for the next 9 days so that it increases the likelihood that you take action. Small steps are better than none, so that you take action on everything that we've discussed today. I look forward to meeting all of you. I very quickly want to take a selfie on stage with you in the background. Please smile and look beautiful. And I really appreciate having the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you today, so thank you.